Hello, Blenders, and welcome to episode number 184 of ReelBlend, a podcast that keeps confusing a kite dancing in a hurricane and a turd in the wind. My name is Sean O'Connell, the managing editor here at CinemaBlend, and on this week's show, we have a new Paul Thomas Anderson trailer to speak about. Licorice Pizza, Venom 2 is going to be hitting theaters, and guys, I'm really excited to announce that our special guest this week is the director Andy Serkis, thereby adding to the collection of Lord of the Rings cast members that we are interviewing here on the ReelBlend podcast. And yes, we do talk to him about a little bit about his work on the Peter Jackson trilogy. And by we, I mean Kevin McCarthy of Fox 5 in Washington, D.C. Hi, Kev.
Hey, good to see you guys. Gabriel, Jacob, Jonathan, good to see y'all. And as Sean mentioned, I do want to mention, go back and find our Elijah Wood interview and our Sean Astin interview. Because we are collectively interviewing, as you said, everybody from Lord of the Rings, and each one of them shares really great stories. And having Andy Serkis on the show, I'm so excited about this, that we got him this week. So it's a good one for anybody out there listening. So
who would be our pick if we could pick our next Lord of the Rings cast member? I would say Ian McKellen.
Jackson.
Okay. Both of those are great. I was going with Vigo, but both of those are terrific.
I think I would go Ian McKellen over Jackson.
Oh,
what?
See, I
just feel like the sound of his voice on our podcast, the sound of his voice in people's headphones.
Yeah,
it's like molasses being poured into your ears. Just
true.
That doesn't sound pleasant, Jake.
You don't sound pleasant.
Okay, all right. Let me ask this: hour and a half with Peter Jackson, or 20 minutes with Ian McKellen?
No, hour and a half with Jackson. Like, that's easy.
Yeah. And we could potentially, he has that Beatles documentary coming soon too. I wouldn't mind talking about the Beatles.
What is there to talk about
though.
with the Beatles?
I know.
What did they ever do?
What have they ever done? And the other guy on the show has been to Liverpool, the home of the Beatles.
Oh my God, that was so fun. I saw it all, man. I saw.
What's the name of that club that they started out in?
Oh shit! I was so into it.
It was called The Beetle with 2 E's. That's the name of the.
No, but I saw Strawberry Fields. I saw Penny Lane. I saw all. It seriously.
But not
was
the name of the club. What's the name of the club? Didn't the guy from yesterday?
But I was there.
The guy from yesterday played a set there, didn't he?
No, the guy from yesterday played a set at the recreation of the club inside a Beatles museum in Liverpool.
Oh, that's weird.
But then we ended up all individually, collectively going to that club later, which is really where you go. I know we're going on a tangent. It's an amazing club. If you ever find yourself in Liverpool, as one does, go to this club. It's where so many of the most iconic bands, the Beatles and the Who and all that, played like some of their first sets ever. The craziest thing was going to a graveyard in front of a church where John and Paul were like they attended that church when they were younger, and there's a gravestone with the name of what's that?
Eleanor Rigby.
Yeah, Eleanor Rigby. It was the gravestone with Eleanor Rigby.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah,
that is cool.
That's
by the way, only because we're talking about the Beatles. Can we just definitively all agree that the greatest Beatles song of all time is Blackbird?
Blackbird.
No, I know you both like that song a lot, and it's an amazing song. But I'm not gonna. I can't say it's their best song of all time.
See, what's weird is I'm a White Album Beatles fan, and there's Sgt. Pepper's fans, but like While My Guitar Gently Weeps and Blackbird are my two ultimate. And so correct me if I'm wrong. Blackbird is just McCartney, and While My Guitar Gently Weeps is just Harrison, right? I think they all wrote individual stuff for the album.
They were at that point. They were writing different things. Yes,
I have a video on my phone. You get friend of the show, Chase Cusack, and I saw Paul McCartney live at Lollapalooza a couple of years ago. I have a video on my phone. Paul McCartney playing Blackbird acoustically. I have it on my phone. It's one of the. I kept it just because I loved that version of it.
I ran into Paul McCartney in a hotel as he was on his way to the gym. It was the Three Stooges junket, and he was like trying to find the gym. I'm not
Weirdly enough, he was curly.
It was so weird.
There's literally.
Our lives are insane.
There is no other podcast that you will ever hear telling a story about meeting Sir Paul McCartney at the Three Stooges junket. Only here on ReelBlend. The other guy's Jake Hamilton from Fox 32 in Chicago. Yes, so if you're listening to us on your normal podcast feeds, hello, thank you, give us a subscription. If you want to see what's going on over here and how Kevin has outclassed the two of us with his outfit today, head over to the YouTube channel where we have a YouTube page.
He's going to be in.
And it's youtube.com/ReelBlend podcast. Give us a like and a subscription over there as well, too. You also can find details about the ReelBlend Premium, which we do on Mondays. And on Monday, we get to do some fun games. We'll reveal the game that we're going to be playing on the upcoming ReelBlend Premium at the end of this episode. So if you want to get an ad-free version of the show, a new podcast every Monday, and a newsletter from me every other week, go to cinemablend.com/ReelBlend Premium. Now, you don't have to be a premium member to play along with the weekly poll. That's something we post on... Gabe, are we doing Mondays now? Are we just going to do Mondays?
Mondays.
All right, so the poll was one of our traditional polls, which is at the beginning of each month. Which release are you most excited for this month? And so for October, Jake, I'll throw this to you. The choices were Last Night in Soho, No Time to Die, Dune, and Other. So first, tell me what you think the people said. And then after, tell me what you think you said.
Once we were reminded that Dune has not come out, I think people chose Dune.
52% of the people chose Dune. Yes, that's correct. What would you have chosen? Any of those three, or maybe something different?
I mean, if we had removed me having seen, because at this point I've now seen No Time to Die and Dune. I saw Dune.
Did you? Kev, have you seen Dune?
No, I haven't seen Dune yet. No, I was kidding. No, yeah, of course I've seen Dune. Yeah, we saw Dune.
I really want to know what Gabe thinks of Dune.
Yeah.
I will say...
Oh, look at that. I stopped recording. That's funny.
I will say this. It is very weird how early we saw Dune. And to
it's
a
too
point
weird.
where...
It's annoyingly weird.
No, but I mean it like this. And Jake, I'm Sean, I don't know if you feel the same way. It feels like the movie already came out.
Yeah, definitely.
And it's the strangest things. We did press for it. My interviews are on YouTube. They've been up there for like 3 weeks or whatever. And like, it's like, I've moved on, and Dune hasn't even come out yet. It's like it's the weirdest thing.
It has internationally, and we did get a lot of comments from some of our international audience that were like, "I've already seen Dune, so I picked this up."
Oh, interesting. Yeah, because we are, like you said, you're focusing instead on the movies that are still to come that we haven't seen. Things like No Time to Die for me, or Venom for a lot of other people. Ghostbusters.
I think Soho is a bit of a sleeper.
Things like that. Yeah,
Soho's going to be, yeah. But it's hard to look, granted, I am incredibly excited about Soho. I'm excited for anything Edgar Wright does. But you can't ask me to say that, if you were to take my having seen what I've seen out of it, you can't ask me to say, oh, are you more excited for Soho than you are Dune or Bond?
No. What's interesting is, so having seen Bond and Dune, I'm thinking about this question prior to seeing either. And I think I would have definitely gone with Dune just because of Denis Villeneuve, only because his track record is so perfect. And I love Fukunaga, and I'm very, and that's we'll get into that when we get No Time to Die. But I think Dune would have been my pick if I was doing this poll without seeing anything, or Duning this poll. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Sorry,
I was trying to think of a good one in my head, and I was trying to see if you could tell me Josh Brolin's favorite Limp Bizkit song.
Oh, wait a second.
Yeah.
I Dune it all for the Nookie?
I Dune it all, yeah. Nookie
that's not bad.
That's pretty good.
That's not bad. This might not even be the name of their song, so this might be totally fucked up.
Something Sean made up.
Oh my god, I love Limp Bizkit, so I'm right. I mean, $3 Bill Y'all was a great album.
Do they have a song called Rollin', Rollin', Rollin'?
They do. It's called Rollin'. Yeah.
Then I was going to say Josh Brolin, Brolin, Brolin.
Yeah, that's good. That was on. They had an album called Chocolate Starfish and the Hot Dog Flavored Water. It was the greatest. That was the greatest album title I've ever heard of.
It is a really good one.
And then Fred Durst directed John Travolta years later in a movie called The Fanatic.
I did not hate that movie.
Super weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Listen,
man, what a weird episode so far.
Let's stop with our nonsense, for God's sakes, and get to our guest. Andy Serkis is obviously well known for his amazing performance work in the Lord of the Rings films and also the Planet of the Apes movies that he did with playing Caesar, obviously, bringing that character to life. He brings Woody Harrelson over from the final War for the Planet of the Apes and has Woody playing... Cletus Cassidy, a.k.a. Carnage, in the Venom sequel, Venom. Let There Be Carnage. And so for that reason, Andy Serkis is joining us on the ReelBlend podcast to discuss Venom and his career, Venom, and all the cool things about Andy Serkis. You ain't gonna know what hit him. So let's throw it to Andy Serkis. Here we go. Take it away. Andy, we can't thank you enough for taking the time. We know that you are doing so much press.
No worries. No, this is a pleasure.
But we were so excited to get you on our show. We're huge fans. Love the movie, think it's a ton of fun, and we are a filmmakers podcast, so we encourage you to get as geeky about the process
as
you possibly can. But I actually just want to start with a bigger picture question, which is when you take over a sequel to a movie that you didn't direct, how do you find the right balance between what fans liked about the initial movie, but still bringing the new flavors that you want to bring to the world?
Well, I mean, it's a good question, but the fact of the matter is, I felt like I really enjoyed so much about the first movie, and plus, Tom Hardy and I have wanted to work together for so many years, and I really admired his performance in it, and I was just I was super excited to be able to take on the project. Really, with Rubin's great work that he'd done on the first movie in setting it all up and telling the origin story, I really loved the very, very point at which I was able to take it on, which was to have that relationship between Eddie and Venom set up in such a beautiful way, to really expand that, and then, but then also to have the opportunity to kind of to bring this incredible supervillain Carnage to life. So I felt I was in a way standing on the shoulders of giants in a sense, because I really did love the first movie, but I had very specific objectives about how I wanted to treat the sequel. So I didn't find it a worry. As I say, I wanted to work with Tom. Tom and I were very close in terms of what we thought about the way it should be. He and Kelly Marcel, obviously they wrote the story together, and then Kelly wrote the script. And when Tom approached me, and it was Tom who called me and said, "Look, Andy, how would you think about chucking your hat in the ring for directing the second movie?" I was like, yeah, I mean, this is perfect. This is exactly, we have a very similar sensibility in a sense of, in terms of choices with characters that we like playing, swimming in the darker end of the swimming pool, and visually and visually, emotionally, all of those things seem to gel. And then when I read Kelly's and Tom's script, it just seemed to be perfect. There was this phenomenal blend of real world dysfunctional characters that were layered and deep and yet you had this seen through the lens of these symbiote characters, which equally had to be able to act really well in this movie, because you see them so much more. And in the first movie, you only get a sense of Venom, really, but now we kind of land in the middle of this relationship 2 years into it, and so the whole kind of odd couple, version of where they're at in their relationship, and it all just felt really beautiful material to kind of mine and hone and get inside, and with an incredible cast.
That's awesome.
Andy, Robert Richardson is one of the greatest cinematographers of all time. I mean, genuinely, I think he's just an absolute genius. His camera work is a leading character in his stories. Obviously, the work he did with Quentin Tarantino on Hollywood was brilliant. I wanted to ask you about your working relationship with Richardson, but also the idea that the first Venom was shot 235. You shot yours 185. They are in the same world. So in your mind as a filmmaker, what does the 185 do to your story in terms of the 235 that Ruben had, and kind of what does Robert Richardson's relationship with you in terms of the way you set shots up and light shots? And I'm just interested in that relationship and also that aspect ratio change.
Sure. So, of course, Bob and I go back because he was the DOP on my first movie, Breathe, and and we became incredibly close on that. And I do feel like the first person I went to when I knew that I was going to be directing this was Bob, because I knew that he would be able to bring a level of reality, gravitas, beautiful cinematography, obviously goes without saying, but most importantly, that he would be able to integrate these quite unforgiving CG characters into a world that would make you believe they all existed as one. And that was what we talked about from day one. And when we met for lunch, when I first talked to him about it, and I said, look, there are so many scenes where these, you see the scale of these symbiotes, and that was where the 185 discussion came. Much as I love anamorphic lenses and shooting very wide, for this story, it felt like we needed height. We needed to be able to get, and also we needed to get right in on into all of the characters' heads. And you say so the kind of, it's like a kind of concertina. You go into Hardy's head, or to Eddie Brock's head, and then you come back, and then you see, and then you've got a good ratio to have Venom and he sharing the same frame, having a duologue. You need to, because Carnage is even bigger than Venom, and I just wanted the scale of, and their heights to not feel like that we were ever chasing that we could really kind of land them big time and fill those frames, at that ratio. I mean, again, when I shot my first movie with Bob, we shot it we shot it at 247. So it was really kind of like that. Very very very. About as narrow as you can get, and I love that ratio, and it suited that story, which is about a man who for the most part of the story is lying down, it's sort of it really, so all of those discussions we had references. But the other thing that I wanted to do with Bob was we talked about saturation. I was very keen in the first movie. It's very it's monotone. It's quite gritty, dark, quite devoid of color in a sense. And this purely because of Carnage and that very specific red that was going to go through the movie, like kind of a shot that goes right through the movie. I really wanted to elevate the rest of the saturation levels so that it felt believable, but at the same time you could really kind of sink yourself into that character and it not feel like it was popping out of the screen too much. And so those are the sort of the discussions that we were having. And Bob is just the most amazingly collaborative DOP who really wants to serve the director's vision. And as we all know, he's made hundreds of movies and great, brilliant movies, and yet he's still all about. He's a great storyteller. He really is. The way that he dances with the camera around performance, we talked through everything in great detail. We storyboarded a lot of stuff together. We worked intensively together to create the look and feel and style of this. But most importantly, when it came down to it, that working with Sheena Dougal, who was our visual effects supervisor, that the three of us then talked about how can we shoot shallow focus so that we're not making the symbiotes feel like they're perfect CG characters, all in focus all the time, which is sometimes what you see in movies, and therefore you're not trusting you're not trusting that fall off, that lovely kind of shallow depth of field to make these things feel more believable and real, as if you were shooting a real human. You're shooting a human being, which you get all of that, of course. So those are the main kind of things that we discussed.
Cool.
There are so many shots in that final act that honestly you could. The expression I always use is you could take them out and frame them and hang them above your fireplace, and they would be absolutely gorgeous. Particularly the scenes in the church; they were beautiful. You've been a part of movies that are firmly within the MCU with Black Panther, and then you've been a part of films that are, as they say in the credits, in association with Marvel. I'm curious, from your perspective, how are the two experiences different? How does the proximity to Marvel change things?
The thing is, as everyone knows, they have such a great sense. The Marvel team, they are an amazing family. It's an amazing family to be part of. First off, you do feel that you're joining this super extended family that really have so much care and devotion to the subject material, the source material. So you do feel that kind of all-encompassing, that you're wrapped in that world. Having said that, obviously Black Panther more so because it was such a central kind of Marvel experience. Whereas this did feel, Venom's always felt, I suppose, to the relationship with Sony, slightly more marginal as a character, and he is a sort of slightly marginalized, character in the universe. So I liked that. I liked the fact that we sort of had the joy of being underneath the auspices and the umbrella of the big family, but that we were almost kind of just this little offshoot, this strange little offshoot that was able to kind of create what we wanted to do and have the freedom to do that within that big universe.
Andy, this is one of the films that has obviously, like so many films, faced delays, just being pushed back and pushed back. And quite often filmmakers are racing to meet a release date that they've been handed, that they're sprinting to get everything finished. With this delayed post-production, did the film benefit in any way? Are you the type of person that kept going back in to tinker, or did you lock it and say it's done, whenever they want to release it, they release it?
It's still. I'll be truthful. We finished the last visual effects shot last week.
Oh my God.
I mean, it's just
wow.
We've just kept refining, and actually, in all honesty, the original release date was nigh on impossible. It would have been a much poorer movie visually. Wow. Because it was there was so much to do. There was the ambition for it was huge, and the time was not really long enough to really execute it. So in a way, for all, COVID was difficult and has been a nightmare for everyone. Certainly, the silver lining for this movie was that we had more time to work on it. That's just the fact. I mean, look, you've got to factor in that. Of course, everyone was working by Zoom. We finished shooting 3 weeks before COVID hit. So I had 3 weeks with my editor, Stan Selfras, and then he, who I'd worked with, he'd worked on the Apes movies with Matt Reeves, and we had a very, very good close relationship. He had to go back to the States, so everything, my director's cut was entirely remote. So that was, that was challenging. That was hugely challenging. But you find ways, as everyone has had to do, and adapt. Then, of course, all of the visual effects work. The visual effects teams were sprawling across the planet, and the animators and the artists, the CG artists, and the visual effects supervisor, producers, all in different places in the world. We just had to be disciplined about how we reviewed the shots, and so but there is nothing like being in the room with people. Obviously, it's the best way of doing things. However, we just got our heads down and just kept having these review meetings, and actually, as I say, we were lucky in that we did have more time to evolve them, because they're complicated shots and complex, and as I said about Venom and Carnage, they are not the easiest characters to actually make believable, because everything else, it was hyper real hyper real in terms of performance and emotional content, and the stakes of all of that. So that they had to drop in, and that was going to be the biggest challenge: how to make them look believable. And so we spent a long time, working on sort of facially how we could. Make them, give them, they had, as I say, they had to act. So we had to create in these iterations slightly more malleable features and lip roundings around the teeth. They're unforgiving in their big jaw, the big kind of smiley jaws and non-eyes. So we had to really kind of decide how we were going to anthropomorphize them without going too far so that they look silly, but at the same time you could read certain emotions in them, or read states of mind or thoughts.
Andy, can you tell us the last shot? Can you tell us the last shot you worked on?
The last shot that we were working on was the last shot we were working on was after the escape of Carnage, when he breaks out of San Quentin prison, and then he transforms back into Cletus as he walks away. We kept refining, scale changing. That took a long time. That just took it. It was a big shock.
That's
to
awesome.
get right.
Thank you.
Love hearing that process. Andy, I'm interested in talking to you about your running time. And correct me if I'm wrong. Before credits, it's about an hour 25, hour 26. It's a very lean film, and I wanted to ask you about the running time in particular. Was that always your vision to have it under 90 minutes? I mean, there's something about a solid, lean 90-minute movie that just moves, and I just wanted to ask you about the running time. And was that always the way it was meant to be?
It was. I mean, that was the intention. We all talked about it from the off, that it was going to have real propulsion, that it was going to be, I think it's lean. I think it is muscular, and I
Yes.
think I do think it kind of, we want to invest in the characters and spend time with characters and not ever overexpose or kind of expositionally kind of, go, we don't need to do that. We can do it in succinct and interesting ways, like telling Cletus's backstory through animation, through hand-drawn, scratched, drawings that he would actually
love
have done.
that sequence. Yeah. That sequence is fantastic.
So you can have that. You can have that kind of depth of character analysis, and you still, without ladling it on so much that it drags the story down. Because look, in all honesty, we have to get to Carnage breaking out and into the story. At a very, sort of not too far into the movie, because that then becomes the propulsion for the second and third acts. So it was, we always wanted it to be a real roller coaster, or just a thrill ride, but then all the time underpinned with real emotional, characters beats. So that was, it was always intended to be a fast moving piece.
And it was, for sure. Andy, you obviously have been a part of so many different projects that really have advanced special effects and technology when you look at Lord of the Rings and King Kong and apes in this film. But I'm sort of curious, from your perspective, what is something that we still can't do with technology, we haven't been able to quite figure out in film, that one day you hope we might be able to figure out how to do?
Well, I think, it's universally agreed upon, in the visual effects world, that we haven't quite yet got the ability to make a human being's face totally, a digital human face,
photoreal,
totally photoreal. It's just not there yet. I don't know why. It's just we are so as human beings, we're so subtly aware of reading the tiniest detail in facial expression, and it will get there, and it's not far off, but it's not there yet. And so when you see digital reincarnations, for instance, of actors past or historical figures, I always think, if you were to take, for example, Gary Oldman playing Winston Churchill in The Darkest Hour, there will become a day when, not in the not too distant future, where you can use photogrammetry to completely reconstruct Winston Churchill's face and then use facial capture as a way of doing that.
That's weird.
So wow.
And I think in The Irishman, it was kind of really successful at times, and then not so. Like, for instance, Joe Pesci's character was the kind of the movement in age with him, I thought, was incredibly successful. So sometimes moments really work, and then sometimes it's just like you're taken out. You get taken out. So I think that is something that's going to really evolve over the next 5 years or so. I think that's going to be completely, and actually you're seeing a dark side of that with deep fake, aren't you? So it's
terrifying.
That's quite scary. I feel like very responsible. That I'm partly to do with that. that I might be, bringing people closer to world wars as a result. I don't know.
It's on you, Serkis.
All right, so I don't know if you can tell from my backdrop and, of course, my work shirt, but I'm the resident comic book geek, Andy, so I have to ask you about Ravenscroft as a location.
Sure.
And I did hear you mention in one of the interviews you've been doing prior to this that, let's not rush to Spider-Man because there's a lot to explore in this Venom universe, and I 100% agree with you. So talk to me about the inclusion of Ravenscroft. I heard somebody named Siegfried get mentioned by name, and anytime anyone gets name dropped, I think, that's probably important. How fun is it populating those cells, and are there things in there that real fans are gonna want to suss out?
I mean, we wanted to go further, actually, give more hints of other characters in there. Eventually, we and there were moments where that was going to happen, but we didn't go down that route in the end because, again, that place can. And this was also interestingly, this is kind of like a Ravencroft West because actually in the comics,
right,
it's East Coast.
Yeah, so it's upstate New York, I think. Upstate New York.
Right, exactly. So this is kind of like we're sort of imagining a kind of another kind of parallel kind of Ravencroft West situation.
Interesting. They franchised.
Exactly. Because we're in San Francisco and it's close to geographically had to be close to San Francisco. So that is one thing. But I really do think that there's a ton of mileage to be had out of what's boiling and roiling in behind those cell doors. I won't give away I actually don't want to give away the things that in case they do emerge.
Sure.
But there are several supervillain characters who obviously have resided in Ravencroft, and that I think could become further down the line a very interesting potential source of fun.
Good. Thank you.
Very cool.
Andy, jumping topics here. This is a question I've wanted to ask you for a while now. Obviously, you were phenomenal in Star Wars, and we loved what you did with J.J. Abrams. And then we obviously saw what happens to your character in Last Jedi with Rian Johnson. I'm interested in knowing the conversations that you had with Abrams about the future of Snoke and where he may have gone. Because I know that different directors stepped in. I know that it wasn't fully planned out. And I just wondered, did you have any conversations with Abrams about where that might be going? And then filming your death scene in Jedi, that must have been an interesting thing for you. But I'm just curious where your head was at in terms of what Snoke's arc was going to be all along.
Do you know what? I never actually knew what Snoke's arc was going to be. And so when people kept asking me, what, who, I was just like, I can't tell you. And the reason I can't tell you is because at this point, I don't know. That was what while we were making the films, and then so it was. I knew it was. People had so many different theories, and obviously there was the kind of the whole Palpatine of it all. So I knew I had to sort of fill in certain sort of dots for myself, but actually. It was the mystery of that was as important as the not knowing. I think I knew that JJ kind of wanted him to be so mysterious that there was no answer in a way. I think, and that was the kind of the power of the character in a sense. So and then when I read the script for Ryan's film. And I was like, man, this is great. This character's really, I love this. This is going great. This is like, what? It was like, horrified. I was just totally horrified. I mean, I could see the value in it dramatically, but I was like, really? It was just, it was a total shocker. I mean, it really was a total shocker. But then, of course, it's Star Wars and things happen in mysterious ways in Star Wars and characters have a sometimes can come back and all the rest of it. So it's just like...
I saw Darth Maul get chopped in half and he became pretty important later on. So. Sorry to be so cryptic, but that's the truth.
No, it's interesting. Andy, I'm going to jump topics again because as we mentioned a couple of weeks ago when you and I spoke, we're looking at the 20th anniversary of Lord of the Rings, which is just astonishing to me because I was such a pinnacle part of my parents literally taking me out of school on opening day to go see all three films. I'm sort of curious. We always heard stories about the cast collectively getting together and getting a tattoo. I'm curious as to if you were a part of that gang that has the tattoo. And I know only so many people were given rings, so I'm curious, what of Gollum's were you gifted when filming was over?
So the first question, because I wasn't part of the fellowship, I was absolutely excluded from having a tattoo, which is fine. I didn't care. I was already there. I had my own thing. It was very.
You held the ring longer than anyone.
I know. I mean, but no, it was definitely a fellowship thing. I didn't take it personally. So no, that was fine. But actually, what I did receive, which is amazing, and was a fantastic gift was so while we were doing pickups on the two towers, I went back to New Zealand. Everybody had left. I was doing pickups by myself on the motion capture stage, and it happened to be my birthday. It happened to be my birthday one Easter, and I was invited over to Pete Jackson and Fran's house, and we sat down and I had a birthday kind of lunch with them, and this was in 2003, and Pete and Fran said we'd like you to play King Kong, and I was like,
wow,
what? That's incredible. King Kong, how does that going to work? So anyway, my mind was on fire, and then at that lunch they gave me the ring that Elijah had worn in the Two Towers as my present. And that's
awesome. Wow.
So I actually have that. I actually have that ring. So that was my tattoo. Whatever. I feel very blessed. And I don't know if you're aware, but I've just actually finished a recording of the Lord of the Rings for HarperCollins and for Audible.com, and that was. I've just literally finished it over like a month ago, and that was 6 weeks of going back into Middle Earth and seeing the story from all the characters' points of view, and playing every character and reading these 3 books back to back. And it was 6 weeks of just me and a microphone, and it was incredible. It was the most extraordinary experience, like to go back to Middle Earth again and 20 years later and experience it. It was so, it was an amazing thing. It was an amazing thing because those
I'm
books
excited
are
for that.
just extraordinary.
So excited for that.
I'm going to bring you back to Venom, Andy, because we got to see the screening of the movie prior to the junket. And then shortly after that, you had these fan screenings, which had an end credits scene that was not included for the journalists who attended the junket. So my first question is, how dare you? And secondly,
well, can I just say firstly to answer that very quickly? At that point, we didn't have an end title credit sequence. I mean, that's how close we were. Again, close to the knuckle it was, because we only completed it literally a couple of days before the fans saw it.
How is that possible? How is that possible?
Because when you're making a movie, if you know you've got a certain length of time, you get it done in that time. And then if you've got that much extra time, you take it all and then you leave it all. It's like not doing your homework when you're a kid, you leave it to the last minute.
Well, then, so I'll ask this, what happens in it and what does it mean?
Well, hold on. Is this going out after people will have? No, I can't.
I know this will come out. Okay, this will come out the week that it's opening. So I guess what I'll ask instead is, so far from those fan screenings, the secret's been protected. What's your reaction to the fact that I'm still having to ask you personally what's in the scene? You must be pretty happy. Way,
you don't want to know. You don't want to know because I think you'll enjoy it when you actually see it. When you see it, you really will. And I think the fans, they were very super excited when the end title credit sequence came up, when that little scene came up.
Very cruel.
Can't wait to see it.
Sir. Kevin, I think we can fit in one more.
Yeah, Andy, I'm going to end on this. So I've spoken to you a lot of times over the years, and to speak with you has meant more to me than you'll ever know, because I grew up on Lord of the Rings and those films. I've never seen filmmaking taken to that level before. The first time I ever cried in a film just because the action was so epic was in Return of the King. I couldn't get over what Peter had done there. So I was wondering if you could pinpoint a specific moment on those films when you were acting and you were just looking up and taking the direction from Peter. Was there something that clicked in your mind where, like, I want to be a director, I want to tell stories like this? Was there a specific moment, a shot, something that happened in the movie where it just clicked for you? And I'm sure that ambition has always been there, but do you have a story where maybe like that really kind of made an impact on you as a storyteller?
I mean, it's a great question, but the fact of the matter is that I had already wanted to start directing, before Lord of the Rings happened. However, I saw Heavenly Creatures that Peter had directed and Fran had written with Philippa, and And I thought, if ever, and this is before I even knew I was going to be in Lord of the Rings, if ever I could direct a movie, I want to be able to direct like that guy. I mean, and that is the gospel truth. I was so blown away by the storytelling, the camera work, the visual effects, the holistic approach to how they make films as a team. It's forensic, the detail, and just the beauty of the way that the camera supports performance. I literally thought before there's a chance of me working with Pete, if I ever direct, I'd love to be able to direct like that. So it was just an amazing, when I found out I was going to be working with them, I told them that. And what was incredible, and I think, okay, so to sort of, when I first, I auditioned for the role of Gollum, we went down on tape for it and did a version of kind of Gollum's voice, which I think is actually an Easter egg on one of the DVDs. You can see a very early version of Gollum, which was based on a cat coughing up furballs. But when I met with them, and this was the seminal moment actually. When I first met Peter and Fran, I kind of all sort of felt very much in love with them because what he was talking about was going on an adventure that he didn't know how he was going to achieve the end result, which was, we're thinking of using this thing called motion capture. I don't know if it's going to work, but we want an actor to inhabit the role of Gollum, someone to play the character so that the other actors can believe that they're talking and reacting and being with this character on set. And then what was extraordinary was how it all evolved as a result of that very first notion, that somehow it was a big sea change in kind of visual effects turning into character. I felt like I witnessed that evolve throughout the whole of the process of working on Lord of the Rings, because it kept, changing. It was like, well, what if we try this? Well, what if we try, I had a tiny little volume to work in, which was like literally about a meter squared that I couldn't move out of when we first started working on Lord of the Rings. By the end of Lord of the Rings, we were trying facial capture, we were capturing on set. It was, all of that had evolved. So it wasn't one single moment, but it was a collection of moments, I suppose, which led to these people, but Peter at the center of it, enable stories to come to life in ways which we don't know yet. And that was what was so exciting, and that's what really inspired me to when he offered me the opportunity of directing the second unit on The Hobbit, it was just like, this is such a gift. We shot 200 days of second unit on The Hobbit trilogy.
Wow!
Oh my God! How many days was Venom? How many days was Venom 2? As a comparison,
54 days.
Wow! Wow!
It was like. We're shooting this whole movie in 54 days? That's why it's only an hour and a half long. No, I'm only joking. It was just like bang, 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 bang. We had to be so prepared for Venom. Anyway, that was to answer your question.
Thank you. Andy, I wish we had a week with you, because honestly, just to go over the topics we didn't even get to, Naomi Harris, Woody Harrelson, Michelle Williams, your incredible cast. The number of things that go into this film, I cannot wait for fans to see it.
Beltrami's score. Oh my God.
It's fantastic.
Incredible. And that's another, look, that was another kind of thing, working remotely. I literally talked to Marco from afar kind of twice and just said, look, this is with the sort of thing we want. We want that intimacy. We want the twisted nature of Cletus and Shriek's relationship. But we want it to be able to go from the tiny to the operatic, to the kind of, and sort of, Cape Fear was the Bernard Herrmann kind of vibe, all of that kind of, that was what he really got that. And I just think it's a brilliant score. I mean, he ran with it. It was great.
That's fantastic. Well, we can't thank you enough for your time, Andy. Thank you for coming on the show. Hopefully we'll get you back
thank you.
Sometime soon. And be safe, be well, and continue success.
Too, guys. Yeah, great
Good to see you, buddy.
We want to thank Sony for giving us time with Andy Serkis. Just a tremendous interview. Really, really great guy. We will talk about Venom later on in the show and give you guys our spoiler-free review. Kev, what do you want to say about Andy?
I just remember, it's crazy. So years ago, when Lord of the Rings were coming out and they're putting like the Blu-ray, the DVDs out and all this stuff, like I would watch all of these featurettes that like Peter Jackson would put together and just the behind the scenes stuff. And like, you know, at that time, motion capture technology was something that was relatively new, and the idea of like a person physically playing a digital character like that. And now it's obviously enhanced into performance capture, where like in the Apes films, where it's a lot more realistic. But like it to me, and I've interviewed Andy Serkis so many times over the years, but it is crazy to me that we just had him on our show. And I've talked to him before, but it is like I want to go back to myself in like high school, looking at those like Lord of the Rings featurettes and like thinking, oh my God, how this is Peter Jackson. This is mind blowing. How cool would it be to like meet Andy Serkis? Like, and no one knew who Andy Serkis was. And like, sure. and when the Apes film started coming out, and Jake knows this, we started doing junkets for the Apes films, and he was the star. So you had to do a junket and then go back to your station with an interview with Andy Serkis and explain who he is, and it was interesting to explain it to an audience. Like, here's what this is. Here's how you know who this person is. He played King Kong. He played Gollum. I mean, it's really a cool thing that we had him on. He is one of my favorite actors working today. I think he deserved an Oscar for War for the Planet of the Apes. And I hope, and anybody listening to this, the Academy, if you're ever listening, performance capture is acting. There's no difference whatsoever. We're seeing the performance just go through a digital version of it, and that it needs to be recognized. And I really hope that one day Andy deserves an Oscar. He's one of the best actors working today. I mean, his range from Black Panther to a film like Apes to a film like
Snoke, Star Wars.
Snoke. Yeah. I mean, like it's truly incredible how underrated he is, and to have him on our show to talk about that technology, especially at the end of the interview when he kind of walks through motion capture. Yep. Insane.
That was great.
Sorry. Just wanted to express my gratitude that we got to have him on. So
it's outstanding. Yes.
And he also, quick little inside baseball behind the scenes, rearranged his schedule quite a bit to be able to appear on ReelBlend. And I don't like for stuff like that to go unappreciated or unnoticed. Yes. So we appreciate you making that happen, man.
Absolutely. Yeah. All right. Let's get to talking points. One of the filmmakers who we appreciate a lot on this show is Paul Thomas Anderson. And he has a new trailer coming out. His follow-up to Phantom Thread, I guess. When was Phantom Thread? 3-4 years ago? 4 years ago at this point?
And oh my God, time. I'm never going to be able to figure out time again.
I will never forget seeing Phantom Thread in 70mm arc light and then telling Sean to go, and you took Michelle. Yep. Tell me that wasn't one of the most incredible experiences. Like 70mm with Phantom Thread was just
with the playlist. I mean, he had a curated playlist beforehand. He treats it like an experience.
Beautiful.
So you guys are super hyped for this trailer, and Kev, I'll let you go first because I'll come in as a bucket of cold water at the very end for a reason. I'll tell you why. But Kev, go ahead first.
I mean, I'm all in. First of all, like from the first frame, the way he creates worlds, I just dove in immediately. Obviously, there's a very emotional aspect to having Philip Seymour Hoffman's son in the film, which is obviously really, because I mean, I think back to some of Hoffman's best performances in PTA's films. The one I think back to the most is probably the one in the car. The one in Boogie Nights. Like, he's just absolutely amazing at Paul Thomas Anderson as a filmmaker. But Phantom Thread was a movie that made buttering toast intense. And I don't know any other filmmaker that can do that. I really don't. And I think he's just a brilliant director. The title is amazing. I love the title Licorice Pizza. Bradley Cooper's performance looks incredible. It looks something very different from anything he's done before. I love that there's a filmmaking aspect to it, obviously, which is cool. I also love that he put Maya Rudolph in it because I don't think I think people forget sometimes that Paul Thomas Anderson's married to Maya Rudolph.
Is this the first time she's been in one of his films?
I don't know. Someone check on that? Because
when I saw her big ensembles.
Yeah, when I saw her in the trailer, I was like, "That's awesome!" I was like, because last time I interviewed her, I geeked out with her about Phantom Thread and how much I love her husband's work. But PTA is in my opinion, in the category of Tarantino and Nolan and these guys who... Do you guys remember what happened with the Licorice Pizza trailer first? So before he put it online, he printed a 35 millimeter print of the trailer and played it exclusively in theaters. That was the only way you could see it. Was like, I think New Beverly had it, and I think one of the theaters in New York had it. And that's how much he cares about the film experience. And you can't deny that the greatest filmmakers of all time, which includes Spielberg and all these guys, they're still shooting on film. Even No Time to Die is shot on film. So it's like PTA is just keeping it going. And he's such a specific director, and I'm excited about everything he does. Every movie he makes is different. There Will Be Blood, Phantom Thread, Boogie Nights, Hard 8. It's just incredible. Very excited about that movie.
Cool. Jakey, where are you at?
Yeah, I'm right there with you, man. I gotta be honest, I have not been as hot on Paul Thomas Anderson's films these past few years as Kevin has. I'm very much a fan of like early PTA. Like I love Magnolia and Boogie Nights and all the way through There Will Be Blood. Around the Master is kind of where he started to lose me a little bit. Now, granted, I love
Master.
A lot of aspects about the Master, and it's one of my favorite Hoffman performances, and there are a lot of individual, but that's kind of where I started going like, okay, I'm not quite as sold as I used to be. This kind of feels like a little bit of a return to form. I keep calling it Boogie Days, which, kind of just feels like a little bit of a slice of life, like we're going to just sort of step into a world, get a feel for it, and then step out, which is very much what I love from him. So I'm more excited about this movie from him than I have been for one of his movies in a long time.
I think it's that return to form that you're talking about.
Revisit Phantom Thread, by the way, if you can.
I will. I only saw it the one time in theaters.
It has me, that aspect of it has me a little bit concerned of just, I've seen him do this before. And only because I'm the opposite of you in that I've liked all the different places that he has gone over the course of his career. That he can follow up Boogie Nights with Magnolia, and then Magnolia can shift to There Will Be Blood. There Will Be Blood can shift over to The Master. The Master can shift over to Inherent Vice. I love Inherent Vice. I know most people don't. Phantom, and then Inherent Vice can't be any more different than Phantom Thread. So I was looking forward to him continuously pushing himself in new directions. And the fact that you can even call this Boogie Days, and make it seem like, I don't want to make this seem like a knock, but if you didn't tell me that was Paul Thomas Anderson and I watched the trailer, I would have thought like, oh, cool, someone's trying to make a Paul Thomas Anderson movie.
See, now, I would have maybe thought, oh, someone's making a Cameron Crowe movie.
Interesting.
See, that's interesting. Also, one thing I will say is this, and then I don't know why this came into my mind, but it's based on Sean's point. So Wes Anderson popped in my mind for a second, because Wes Anderson, while all the films are different, they all feel the same. They feel like Wes Anderson films. And that's not a knock at all. Moonrise Kingdom has a same feel to me as like Bottle Rocket or whatever. There's just a feeling to that. PTA, there's a gigantic difference between There Will Be Blood and Boogie Nights. And he has a style which is like, but I don't know how to explain it because he goes so many different places. But I do agree that this one does have that Boogie Nights, and I actually think the Cameron Crowe example is good too. But Wes Anderson is someone that I think. So does Wes Anderson bother you in that regard, Sean? That it always feels that way?
Yeah. Yes. But I don't think that over his last, say, 4 movies, I don't think Wes Anderson has pushed himself or challenged himself to break out of his mold.
Interesting.
I think he knows his mold. Sure. And you keep going back for the next Wes Anderson. I thought with his last 4 or 5 films, Paul Thomas Anderson was really going out for totally different things. Yeah. And I dug Phantom Thread because it was completely different from There Will Be Blood. If you showed those two back to back, you would probably not think that they came from the same filmmaker. So to see him return, and listen, it could end up being fantastic. This is a snap judgment based on the trailer alone, because the things that inspired me the most after watching it were Bradley Cooper and Sean Penn, who look like they're in a different movie. They're doing something totally unique and different, and I want to see how they fit into it. So, but the
Sean,
look of it is great.
Would you say Phantom Thread was delicious?
Yes, I would say that. And
I'm
with you on the buttery toast too. Yes, that is also a fantastic scene.
Is Bradley Cooper I'm sorry, is Bradley Cooper playing John Peters, like the producer famously obsessed with spiders, John Peters?
Yes, I believe so.
Like,
yes.
have you ever heard Kevin Smith's story about John Peters?
Yeah.
And about the whole, like, how whenever Tim Burton was going to do Superman, and they got Kevin Smith to write it, he kept having to meet with John Peters, and John Peters kept being like, okay, but the final villain has to be a spider. Like, spiders are the most terrifying creature in the universe. It has to be a spider. It has to be a fucking spider. And so it didn't end up happening. And all of a sudden, Kevin Smith says, down the next summer, I went and saw the new John Peters movie that he produced, and it was a movie called Wild Wild West. And what is the big mechanical thing at the end? Like, Kenneth Branagh is on a mechanical spider. Like, he has this weird obsession with... So that's the guy Bradley Cooper's playing?
I believe so, yeah. Because I'm pretty sure John Peters was a beautician before he became producer.
Yes, that is correct.
I think he was a beautician for Barbra Streisand.
That is correct.
Which is why that whole bit, that whole bit in the trailer, that's really funny.
Bradley Cooper can do that better than anybody else. He can disappear into weird role like that.
Can I ask you all a question? Why do you think it's called Licorice Pizza?
There's apparently a shop in the valley that an actual place that existed and maybe still exists or maybe existed through the 70s or 80s. Like, it's a very regional reference from what I understand. And I don't know if it's a great
title.
I don't know if it's a pizza place or a record store. I don't know.
Oh, interesting.
But I guess we'll find out. But like, and that's the thing. Like, it's so very San Fernando Valley, PTA making a movie about that area. That's his whole.
Oh, is that what? Is it that's a vinyl reference? Like vinyl, black vinyl looks like Licorice Pizza kind of thing?
Maybe. That would make sense.
Oh, I never even thought about that.
That would make sense. I think
You're
it's
100% right. It's a circle. Yeah.
The hell are you talking about? I just said it's a record store.
Yeah.
Why are you giving
I didn't break any
you
news.
said record store. He said vinyl. Like, there's
but I didn't put together the pizza and the record.
Yeah.
Until Gabe said that.
Wow.
It was like because
now I love that title.
Yeah,
if that's what it is, maybe they just eat pizza with licorice on it.
Yeah, you're
because if it's not, then missed opportunity.
Yeah,
PTA is definitely a vinyl guy. We know he has to be. I mean, he shoots on film. I mean, he's 100%. I bet you has a massive vinyl collection.
Yes.
And I respect that. So, Gabe, that makes me happy.
I think I still owe credit to Sean.
Sean gave you the ball, and then you alley-ooped it in.
It's true.
In fantasy football terms, Sean got all the points for getting to the end zone, but Gabe got the 6 points plus 0.1 for getting the touchdown.
That's right. Fair enough. All right. So that when do we know? Do we have an opening date for Licorice Pizza?
Is that November or October? I'll check.
I got you.
I have to repeat while Gabe is looking this up the story about the studio reps at CinemaCon that were like, we have the new Paul Thomas Anderson coming out this year, and once he tells us what it's all about, we'll share it with you. Like, they had no idea. So he literally has such complete control.
Hey, Sean, I heard it's coming out on November 26th.
Wait, Jake, I heard November 26th as well.
Did you?
I heard 6 days after November 20th.
That would make sense. Okay. All right, fair enough. We'll go with that, November 26th. This week in movies, let's get to a couple of big things that are opening. Coming up, The Addams Family, Part 2. Has anyone seen The Addams Family 2?
So, weirdly enough, I'm actually watching that tonight. I texted you guys in the thread. I get an email today that was like, hey, can you interview Charlize Theron tomorrow for Addams Family 2? And I'm like, this is a quick turnaround. I'm like, sure. I was like, okay. So apparently they're sending me a link, so I will be watching it this evening.
Okay. Well,
haven't seen it.
Kevin will tell us about it next week. Coming to both theatrical and HBO Max, A Sopranos Story, The Many Saints of Newark.
This is all Jake.
I will let you go first.
Well, Sean too.
Yes.
Sean's a massive Sopranos fan,
and I got a chance to see it also. Yes, but Jakey, you start. Kick us off.
I absolutely love this movie. I think it very much helped that I rewatched a huge chunk of The Sopranos leading up to it. I think if you are a fan of Sopranos and specifically remember characters and who they become, then I think you will love this movie and really appreciate this movie. I gotta be honest with you, I'm not sure how much value there is. Because for me, the weight of this movie, Daenerys feels the same way. The weight of this movie, the tragedy of it, comes from...
She's just yelling gabagool is what she's trying to say.
Gabagool. The weight of this movie comes from knowing what happens. You know, the scenes, and Sean, you and I talked about this, when Tony is holding a baby Christopher, and you know what happens on The Sopranos, it makes that scene in Many Saints of Newark just crush your soul. It just, like,
so that makes me think, if you didn't watch it and don't know, you're just watching Tony hold a baby. So is it as significant? Would it work?
I don't think so. I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
Now, I've talked to a few people who watched the movie without having seen The Sopranos, and they say they liked it. But then I say, okay, but scene X, do you realize that that's important because of X, Y, and Z? And they go, oh, no, I didn't realize that. And I go, well, in scene Y, do you realize that it's important because of this, this, and this? And they go, oh, my God. No, you know, so, like, I'm not saying you won't enjoy it, but it's just going to be another mob movie to you.
Yeah.
Like, if you haven't seen it.
And kind of an average one.
An average mob movie.
Not an above average. Right. Yeah,
exactly.
Not an above average one.
What makes it elevated for me was the revelation of who was responsible for Dickie's death. You know, just like that was massive, because that's something that we never got a definitive answer for in The Sopranos.
Yeah.
And whenever you find that out, like, my mind was blown. I was like, it made me look at an entire chunk of The Sopranos differently, an entire character, you know. So I absolutely loved it, but I absolutely think that a love and an appreciation and a memory of The Sopranos is, like, I honestly don't know if I would have appreciated it had I not gone back and at least rewatched a few seasons of The Sopranos to remember who everyone was.
Now, I'm having a flip reaction to it in that, so the main character is Dickie Moltisanti, who gets mentioned a lot on The Sopranos, but you never met.
Correct.
He's dead by the time Sopranos starts. But you know Christopher Moltisanti, who is Dickie's son, and obviously becomes a protege of Tony over the course of the entire show. And so it tells the story of Dickie Moltisanti. We have now realized after the fact that Moltisanti is translated as Many Saints, so the title is actually The Moltisantis of Newark, which makes a ton of sense when you realize it's all about their entire family. I'm now watching Sopranos episodes. I watched a few of them to sort of catch up, and I've seen the series all the way through, but I watched a few to catch up. Then I watched the movie, and now I'm back on the rewatch, and it makes me feel all the more tragic for Tony in particular, for just seeing Tony, because you get so much in this movie of Michael Gandolfini playing the younger version of Tony, James Gandolfini's son, and he plays him very much as a normal kid, you know, as a kid who's part of a family who kind of understands what's happening, but doesn't really, you know how deeply involved everybody is in it. And now to see what he's become in The Sopranos, it adds a layer of tragedy that I think can only enhance your appreciation and viewing of the show. So 100% recommend. You know, I totally agree with Jake in saying that you're gonna get way more out of it if you happen to be a fan of The Sopranos. But I think it was made for people who like The Sopranos. I don't think it's made as a introduction to the show or to pull you in. I think it's supposed to be a counterpart to the show that's there. So
this is a weird comparison, but it's one of those things that, like, episode 1, The Phantom Menace, it's made better by knowing who that little boy becomes.
Sure. Yeah,
which is why
absolutely.
Whenever people talk about, like, what order to watch Star Wars in, I still say watch original trilogy first, because the prequels are made better when you know what ends up becoming of that kid.
Yeah.
I also say
watch
that
it in order release. Yeah.
I think Many Saints of Newark to me definitively answers the mystery about the finale of the show. And I shared my theory with Jake. Do you think I'm onto something?
Unquestionably. Like, honestly, I don't see how you could tell your theory. I know we're being very vague. I don't see how you could tell anyone your theory and have them go, no, I don't agree with that, and here's why.
I gotta write about that for the site. I'm gonna write about that for the site. I'm gonna put it on by, like, Friday or Saturday. So,
I'm gonna write it up first.
That will be available.
My theory.
The Palme d'Or winner this year was a movie called Titane. And everything I've heard about Titane prior to trying to watch it was go into it as cold as possible. It's better if you know nothing about the plot and where it's going. And the director previously had done a cannibal movie called Raw. She got a lot of attention for directing that film. I never saw Raw. Did you get a chance to see Raw?
Yeah.
Was it deeply disturbing?
Yeah.
Okay. So we're gonna hold off on reviewing this because I want the other two guys to see it. They're gonna get screening links of it, and we'll probably talk about it at length in an upcoming episode. But
and there's a hashtag if it happens attached to it as well.
Yes.
Can I say that?
So yeah, I think so. But Titane is coming out.
Hashtag if it happens is just superstition. It's not an embargo.
Yes.
I hate that I've adopted it because I used to criticize Kevin for it. Now it's like a massive part of my life.
It really is. It's coming out in limited release. So hopefully you guys get a chance to check it out this week and just consider it prep for something fun that we might get to do on the show down the line. Kev, you saw The Guilty on Netflix,
I did.
am I right? Tell us about The Guilty. Is it any good?
I actually liked The Guilty. Jake, I know you saw it too, so we can get into this. It was shot in 11 days. I'm assuming you guys all know the story about what happened with Fuqua.
So
it's
Jake Gyllenhaal is a 911 operator. Is that right? 911 operator.
Yeah.
Okay.
So in the film, Gyllenhaal plays a 911 operator who receives a call, and it's a woman in distress, and he tries to basically help find her and help solve the mystery, right? Jake, is probably the best way to say it. But Fuqua, who directed the film, who's an amazing filmmaker, I don't know if you guys heard the story about how he had to direct this. Did you guys read about this?
In like a van down the street, right? Because he had
down by the river.
Did he have COVID or did he just have like proximity to COVID?
According to Entertainment Weekly, he was in proximity to somebody who had COVID, but he tested negative, I believe, but still directed the entire film from a van down the street, and the entire film takes place in that one.
It never leaves the center,
Jake, right?
The call center.
No, it never leaves the call center.
That's interesting.
So what's interesting, it's cool how they did it. So all the actors, so everybody that Jake Gyllenhaal is talking to in the film are all zoomed in and they're live conversations.
Okay.
So any person who calls into the 911 center that Gyllenhaal is talking to and it's being filmed, the majority of those scenes, Gyllenhaal actually had them, he had them on a Zoom call and they did those scenes live. So like, it's not just him like recording his lines and some AD giving the other side of the call. Like, it's pretty fascinating how they put the film together. 11 days to shoot this. And Gyllenhaal's amazing. He carries the whole film. He's incredible in it. The character himself, there's a backstory to him that has emotionally put him in the place that he's in. And Jake, like, I'm trying to remember, do they ever show don't they ever show like a scene where they do almost like a blurry scene outside of the call center of a cop pulling someone over, or is it always just there? I can't remember the specifics. I was trying to remember.
It's been a few weeks.
Don't you remember?
Or does he see maybe you're right. I do seem to remember a cop car pulling over a van at some point.
Yes. So
and the reason
did it have the director in it?
The fires. Wait, what?
Yeah.
I said, did it have the director in it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So I wanted to clarify that because Sean asked if they ever leave the room, and I remember that scene where a police officer pulled over that van.
Okay, but if like 99% of it's in the room,
but the majority of it is in the room.
It's like saying 1917 is one take.
Yeah, basically. Listen, I think Fuqua is such a fantastic storyteller and director. I loved Olympus Has Fallen. Obviously, Training Day was incredible. Olympus Has Fallen is a very underrated action film. I know it's Die Hard, but it's really, really awesome. That movie is awesome, and it's so well directed. And I think, what was the one he did with Gerard Butler was really good too. Oh my God, what is the name of it? It was like this, I can't remember the name off the top of my head now, but I'll look it up later. But it was really good. Anyways.
And Gyllenhaal is always interesting. Gyllenhaal has another movie coming out in February called Ambulance, directed by Michael Bay.
Is he just in the back of an ambulance?
He's in the back of an ambulance. Sorry.
Well, he's
really getting lazy.
He and his stepbrother use an ambulance as a getaway after a bank robbery.
That's cool.
That's the hook.
Oh, that's cool.
But it's directed by Michael Bay, so it's like Carnage, normal Bay Carnage as they try to escape this thing. So that's coming up. Okay. Oh, geez, what a transition.
Wait, Jake, you got to review The Guilty. What'd you think of it?
I wasn't a fan. I was intrigued within for the first 15 minutes. I was like, oh, I like the hook. I thought the actual plot itself just got really, really ridiculous. Like what ends up being like the resolution to the situation that's going on. every 10 minutes, I just sort of felt like, okay, come on, like let's go, like let's get this figured out. I honestly, for a 90-minute movie, I thought it felt really like I was actually like we watched it via a screener. I kept pausing it to see how long there was left.
Oh, that's death.
And by the end, I just sort of went like, what the hell is going on? I was not into it. And then I felt like there were a lot of like actions made by people that I just thought like that's not how a normal person would behave under those circumstances. Like a normal person wouldn't, so I actively disliked the film.
I liked it, but I didn't love it. I liked it. I thought, by the way, like Fuqua has an amazing filmography. Just go through like the Replacement Killers. Like just go through his whole The Equalizer. I mean, he's made some really, really good stuff. I mean, I don't know if you guys saw Brooklyn's Finest was really, really good. Shooter with Mark Wahlberg was amazing.
Shooter's
Southpaw with Jake Gyllenhaal was great. Shooter might be one of the most underrated action movies ever. Like Wahlberg is so good.
Wahlberg's great. Like, I feel like Wahlberg had as good of a performance since then?
Probably Boogie Nights. Oh, you mean since then?
Oh, Painting Game?
Since then. Painting Game is good.
Painting
but
Game was awesome.
Shooter is super underrated. Did you guys like Southpaw?
Yeah.
With Gyllenhaal?
I feel like
Fuqua
consistently makes good films. I wouldn't say he makes great
director.
Films.
Yeah.
But I would say like makes great. Like, he doesn't make great films. He makes.
I didn't like his Magnificent Seven.
I will say, but like Magnificent Seven was good. And like Equalizer was good. Training Day was great, but Training Day was literally 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Let's move on to. Yeah. So you recommend? Kevin recommends throwing it on. Jake says. No
I liked it. I thought it was interesting, but I will say the reason why I do like The Guilty, I like the way it was made. And I like the way that like that he directed it down the street. I like that like Gyllenhaal was really on these calls. It was cool. It was almost like an experiment, and I thought it was cool.
Don't feel guilty for liking it.
I'm just saying I liked it for those reasons. Yeah.
All right. I have seen Venom: Let There Be Carnage.
Not just that, you've seen the bonus scene.
Well, so when we saw it for the junket. Of which Andy Serkis was a member of the show, as you guys heard earlier. There's a post-credit scene that they did not include for junket press, and they told us that it was because it wasn't ready in time, which I don't think is. I think that's a lie. I think sometimes we just get lied to. It's not like they slapped this thing together.
No, people just heard. I think Andy Serkis said it in our interview today.
Well, he said the scene. He did say that also too, and he said the scene he was finalizing at the very last minute was like Woody Harrelson walking away from the prison after he breaks out, kind of thing. So yes, I now have seen the and I don't really want to talk about it though. I don't want to talk at length about what it is.
No.
But it's a game changer.
Yeah.
Can you text me what it is? I don't know what it is.
Yeah, I'll text you right after the show what it is.
Next time Jake is talking, text me now. Like I need to know. Like next time Jake's in the middle of speaking, text me.
So here's what I'm going to say about Venom: Let There Be Carnage. It is much better than the first one.
No,
but that's not saying much. The first one was not a good movie. This is right. I forgot. You like the first one.
I like the first Venom. It's so much fun.
I think that the idea of the first Venom was there, and it is enhanced in this one. I don't think Ruben Fleischer is a very good director. I wouldn't have given the movie to Ruben Fleischer.
Zombieland was awesome.
Because of him, though? That's a Rhett Reese and Paul Wernick script.
Still well directed, though. That Phantom camera they use in the beginning, 1,000 frames per second, while the Metallica song is playing when the zombies are running.
What is it he's working on right now? He's working on something right now that I need
Uncharted.
to be good.
He's doing Uncharted.
I need Uncharted to be good.
Fleischer's good. I like
Casting Mark Wahlberg, though, makes me feel like it's not going to be good.
I know. But the footage they showed at CinemaCon actually looked really good. It looked very game specific. Yes. All right. There's some pretty cool stuff. There was a good scene of Tom Holland falling out of an airplane holding onto crates that looked very...
This is an incredible tangent that we're going down, but I also cannot wait for the Last of Us TV series. Speaking of PlayStation properties.
Yes.
I don't know if you guys have played that game.
Just that one still that they showed.
I have to play part 2. I've played part 1.
Part 2, Jake, if you can find a way to play it, some of the most... I don't think we've had storytelling structured and told like this.
I think it's one of those things that like I know, and you're
really
far and away the first the first person that's told me this. I just I have such a hard time sitting down and playing those games, the kind of games that require that. Like, that's why if I'm going to play a video game, it's like a stupid Resident Evil where I can kill zombies for 20 minutes and turn it off.
I would even say if you're not going to play, people upload like cutscenes and stuff, and they basically cut it like a movie on like YouTube, and you can just watch the story.
Yeah, it's unreal.
It's incredible. Well, this is a crazy tangent. Let's go back to Venom 2. But
but to your point, my brother-in-law bought a PS5, and he brought it over to the house the other day, and we put the new Resident Evil game on.
Nice.
And if you remember back in the day, like in the old day, like the PS2s, the cutscenes always looked better than the gameplay, right? Mm-hmm. And now, like, it's full-blown, like 4K cinematic the entire time. And I was just like going through this. I'm like,
Did you see the trailer for the new Wolverine video game?
No.
It looks astonishing.
Yes. I will be honest with you, and this might just be nostalgia speaking. I would rather still play N64 GoldenEye and Mario Kart than any of these new games.
Only if we can order Pizza Hut and go to Blockbuster and grab a movie first.
Yes, but no one can
tell me
Odd
that's
Job.
not a good Friday night.
No Odd Job though.
No, because that's cheating.
That's cheating.
Odd Job with a knife.
No Odd Job.
I used to get so bad. That's such like a little. Not that I, like maybe because I was that's such a little brother thing to do. Like
it was. Odd Job. Nobody could, you could never be Odd Job, and if you were, it's like you were
Was
cheating.
he like overpowered?
He was shorter. No, he was significantly shorter. So if you had Odd Job in the knife, you could go behind someone and just jab him, and the whole time your character's swinging around trying to find where he is and trying to shoot him, and all the while little Odd Job is just stabbing him with a little tiny knife.
That's pretty funny.
And all of a sudden, that's when the blood just starts streaming down here. Saying Odd Job like gets me all fired up.
So Odd Job had no time to die?
Yes, I guess he would have had no time to die.
Anyone who was opposite Odd Job had plenty of time to die.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to Venom. Let there be carnage.
Speaking of odd,
here's what I will say, and I think Kevin will agree with this. If you liked the first one, you will like this one. Oh, maybe he won't agree with this. If you didn't like the first one, you're not going to like this. I think it's very much more of the same, but I think that they found the things, to me, that worked in the first movie and enhanced them. They lean into the Venom-Eddie relationship. The effects, to me, are so much better. The symbiote is a character throughout 90% of the film. He's on screen through most of the time, and it looks really phenomenal. It's super goofy, and it's really silly. And I think going into the first Venom, I didn't expect it to be that. But it's very clear that that's what Tom Hardy wants these movies to be. He wants them to be slapstick sort of physical comedy, him and his symbiote partner. And then, they leaned into the weirdness of it by casting Woody Harrelson as Carnage and Naomi Harris as Shriek. And it's lean and mean. It's 85 minutes, in and out the door. And then there's this spectacular
about the chickens and why he can't eat the chickens. Right. I died laughing in a theater when there are two chickens that Tom Hardy is trying to get him to eat. Like, dude, you can't eat people, just eat these chickens. And they're live chickens running around his apartment, and there's just two left. And Venom says, "I can't. Sonny and Cher are friends." Just lost it in a theater, and that's where that's when I mentally went, cool. That's, you know what?
Yep.
Screw it. It's stupid.
Wait. Jake, you are saying it's a good movie?
No, I'm saying it is a bad movie, but I had a good time watching it. I hated Venom 1 and had a miserable time while I was sitting in the theater. Like, I wanted it to be over. I thought it was just... And this, I recognize, is not good. It's not a good movie. Right. But it was stupid fun. Like, it's still, it's the equivalent of like, eating a fast food burger, and you're like, this is not good, but like, it's a fast food burger.
Argue
like if you ate a Whataburger, like that.
Look,
that would
don't
be
do this,
the
man.
equivalent of Venom 2.
You're better than this.
Yeah.
I would even argue. I'd even argue that it's a pretty well made bad movie. Like, I think because of the material, it was never going to be great. But like, Robert Richardson shoots the shit out of it. Like, there are fight scenes that look great in it because Bob Richardson's shooting it.
The people behind this film are phenomenal. Like,
the Beltrami score is good.
Beltrami's score.
Yeah.
Robert Richardson's DP.
Yeah.
And it's the movie just feels like it's missing something. It's so fast, and I don't even remember what happened in the film. To be honest with you, it was like I liked the first one because I liked that whole detective story, kind of like what he was doing, and I thought I liked the Riz Ahmed element. And like, I just find the Venom Eddie Brock, like, I love those scenes. So in going into this film, those scenes are great. Like, I do like scenes when we're in the apartment and like Venom's messing with him, and like it's really crazy. But like, these films should be R-rated. I mean, this is if you think about what Venom does. Like the fact that he like eats people's heads.
Venom also should not be the hero. Like that's an inherent foundational problem with these movies.
That is a little bit strange.
I'm kind of okay with that though. I haven't seen this one yet. I'm seeing it tonight.
Yeah,
I don't mind him being the hero.
I'm okay with him being an anti-hero. Yeah,
he's just so petulant. Like, his petulance made me laugh. Gabe, this doesn't ruin anything, but there's one point where he just keeps screaming at Eddie that he's starving. And Eddie has to sit down to like work on something, and Venom just keeps making him type the word "dick" over and over again. he's like, "Dick, dick, dick," and finally Eddie Brock has to be like, "Fine, we'll go eat something." It's stupid. It's so stupid, but it made me laugh a lot more than the first one did. So, but anyway, go, because there's this amazing mid-credit scene that, you know, without
Sean called me today and told me what it was.
Without hype and without exaggeration, it's a complete game changer. And the
whatever
conversation
you may have heard that it was, because I'd heard, Sean, you told me a rumor about a scene, and I'd heard that elsewhere as well.
Yes.
Afterward. That's not it.
Correct.
If you heard something about Times Square, that's not it.
Correct. That is not it.
But if you heard something about Union Square... Now
you're talking.
All right, so let's get to our blend game this week. Oh, real quick, Kev. Okay, so last week we played the Mike Flanagan blend, and Kev did not join the show last week, but he's back now, and so we wanted to give you an opportunity to tell us your favorite Mike Flanagan, which would include film or television. Where would you go?
Yeah, so it's interesting to me because I think...
Did you hear what we picked, by the way? Were you able to pick up?
Give me your pick. Give me your picks first. I have mine already, but go ahead.
I went Hill House.
Okay.
I also went Hill House.
I went Mass.
Okay. All right. I'm going Dr. Sleep.
Beautiful.
Wow.
That was like everyone's like second or third. Yeah.
Like we all individually felt guilty for not picking something that good.
Yeah.
So here's why Dr. Sleep is my choice. It's an impossible task to make that film anywhere near the level of what Kubrick did with The Shining.
Mm-hmm.
I would argue that Flanagan made a film on the same level as The Shining. It is that good. Like, he actually made a legitimately great sequel. That is first of all, think about this for 1 second. Think about how risky that film is to make for a filmmaker.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? You are following in the footsteps of one of the greatest filmmakers in the history of movies. You're sequelizing a classic that is considered I consider probably the greatest horror movie ever made. Dr. Sleep is on that level. I mean, I wouldn't put Dr. Sleep that much lower than The Shining. And that's why I had to pick that, because he genuinely so here's what The Shining did for me, and here's what Mike Flanagan did with Dr. Sleep. That's why I picked this. The Shining was atmospherically scary. Every moment of The Shining made my stomach feel worried. I was petrified just walking through the Overlook Hotel. Every single scene felt nasty, gritty, angry, and just scary to me. Dr. Sleep had the exact same element to it as it unraveled, and I loved the connection. I loved Ewan's character, and I loved how that all played out. And then you arguably have the most insane and disturbing death scene I've ever seen in a movie in my entire life.
Oh yes,
with Jacob Tremblay,
baseball
and
boy.
I to this day I don't understand how that even got through to the studio and how that even made it into a motion picture, because it is such a disturbing scene. And it's
I think it's like focusing on. Do you think that it's like the Pulp Fiction, the needle plunging? I think we see more in that scene than we actually do.
What I was just about to say.
Oh shit! I'm sorry.
No. I'm glad you said that, because you're right. The comparison I was going to make was 7, because in 7, Fincher's violence is done in your mind. The violence is done. The aftermath is there. So as you watch the Flanagan scene go down, it's the screams, and then the director's cut when they splash the blood on his face. But I can't get over the fact that he made a movie that is on par with The Shining. I don't know if you guys agree with me. I don't know if I'm being hyperbolic here, but I think The Shining is a masterpiece, and I think Dr. Sleep is right there with it, and I really wouldn't put it that far below it. I mean, maybe like it's a centimeter here. You know what I mean? Do you guys believe Dr. Sleep is on that level? It's an incredible achievement. Yeah. It's an incredible achievement, and Rebecca Ferguson, unbelievable.
A great element that kind of points out like just how impossible of a task it is, and he still pulls it off, is he had to actually recast The Shining. Yeah. And it's flawless. Like it doesn't. Yeah. It's never distracting.
Oh, yeah. The Nicholson thing was perfect. Yep. Like I'm telling you right now, and Flanagan has really restarted. Henry Golding, right?
Thomas.
Thomas. I'm sorry.
Thomas.
Is it Henry Thomas? Sorry. Elliot from E.T.
Yeah.
Who am I thinking of? Henry Golding. Henry Thomas. Sorry, I've been up since 5 a.m. But Henry Thomas, obviously, he could have always just been Elliot from E.T., right? Sure. He could have just, I mean, like, that's a hard character to break away from. Like, Macaulay Culkin really can't do much these days because he's kind of just always Kevin from Home Alone.
Sure.
But see,
Flanagan...
He needs a Flanagan in his life, someone to take a chance on him. And...
Like, Flanagan's, like, really brought his career back. Like I would argue he did for Henry what Tarantino did for John Travolta.
Sure.
Because, like, I'm telling you right now, that scene in Dr. Sleep is amazing. And Midnight Mass, I'm getting shivers. His performance in Midnight Mass is unbelievable. I think Flanagan might be the most underrated director working today.
Yeah. Well, now that Midnight Mass has come out, I'm seeing how many people really do appreciate him, though. Like, he's getting a lot of love from people.
But Midnight Mass is... It's disturbingly cathartic in such a weird way. And every performance... And obviously Hill House was brilliant. But it's hard not to choose these because they're all phenomenal. But I watched Midnight Mass and I was blown away. I could not believe what I experienced. But Dr. Sleep, I know I'm going on a tangent here, but I just feel like I don't know any filmmaker that could have pulled that off. Like if you told somebody I'm making a sequel to The Shining, you probably would say you're an idiot. Like, why would you even do that? I mean, what like
it's okay for King to write one. You know?
Right, yeah,
because it's his material. So,
but to direct a sequel to The Shining it's to me, it's like I don't understand how he did it. I don't know how he mentally did it.
Even when Spielberg threw the overlook into Ready Player One, I was kind of like, really, dude? Like, and he's fucking Spielberg, and I'm like, you're going to The Shining? Like,
and they did a great job with it. But I just want to shout out Flanagan, and I'm also going to use this as an excuse to plug our interviews with him because we did one with him that was 2 hours long for Dr. Sleep specifically. It is a deep dive into Dr. Sleep. And then we just had him on for Midnight Mass. Like, I'm so excited that we're witnessing him as a filmmaker, and he's been on our show, and he's just genius. And Dr. Sleep, man.
Here's a fun Easter egg moment in the most recent Flanagan conversation is when we tell him, oh, they're telling us we only have a minute left. And you can see his face. Like, he looks disappointed. Like, he looks up, he's kind of shocked. And then he's like, because I think he knew it was going really well and he was having a good time.
And then we ended up getting that really funny like cat thing at the end, which was like, which was like what was the line he said? He goes it was so cathartic to me to have a bunch of dead cats like on a beach because he says like he hates directing.
What was the thing
so
he said? Like you kill one dog and everyone goes nuts, but you kill 1,000 cats and no one gives a shit.
Yeah. Well, and I want to give Jake credit on something real fast just for Midnight Mass because Jake had made a point which actually kind of intrigued me and made me want to watch it more, which was the show is not what you think it is. And that third episode, that ending, and then what it is, like I was just like, oh my God. Like for anybody out there listening, if you think it's one thing, that's fine. And Gabe, I think you said this as well. It does deliver what you want it to be for the first 3 episodes. But 4, 5, 6, and 7 after the end of 3, it is. Yeah,
it's remarkable. All right, Kevin, remarkable. I just texted you the Venom credits.
All right, I'm gonna
so
read
you
that,
read that, and Jake,
right.
give me your autumn movie blend pick.
Okay, here we go.
That.
Halloween.
Really? Okay.
I just wanted to be really short so Kevin wouldn't have time to read it.
Wait, no,
All right, Kevin,
reading. Keep
next.
going.
No,
I'm reading a whole paragraph here.
No, I picked John Carpenter's Halloween.
Sean wrote it like a script. He goes, exterior, night.
I did.
It's this long.
Really short.
It is.
So Kevin
Sean,
had no time.
I acted it
Kevin's
out.
Bond movie is no time to read. No, I chose John Carpenter's Halloween, which I know might seem cliche or traditional, but look, when I see that film, when I see screenshots from that film, I feel like the temperature of fall. I can see like sort of like the golden, the brown, red, yellow leaves. Like I can smell like that fall kind of crinkling of the like, kind of in the air. You know what I mean? Like like it's a movie that brings about all that lights up all of my senses of a season. Which is why I think for me it's the absolute perfect pick. Like it's absolutely the movie that I have to watch in October.
Your Octobers are so dictated by horror films too.
Absolutely.
Didn't they famously didn't they shoot it in the summer?
Oh, they shot it in the summer. Yeah.
And they had, I don't know, sorry if you said that because I was reading that Venom thing, but like they did such a good job of making it look like the fall.
Well, and they shot it in California and it's supposed to be set in the burbs of Chicago. It's or in Illinois. No, it's for me it is the quintessential fall movie because it is not just tied to horror. It's tied to a terror-filled day in October. So it's all the aspects of the season, in the same way that like I love The Shining, but I kind of love watching The Shining when it's cold and snowy outside. I love watching The Thing, but I love watching The Thing when it's cold and snowy outside. I've got to watch Halloween right as the leaves are starting to turn, right as the temperature's starting to drop, right as it's time to sort of break out the jacket and it's getting just a little snuggly, a little chilly outside. That's when it's time to revisit my old friend. My old friend Michael.
Yeah.
Bill Shatner.
Bill Shatner.
Bill Shatner.
Yeah. By the way, I read Sean's text. That is unbelievable. I am in absolute shock. So for anybody listening to this right now, you need to go see this movie for this scene because oh my God, like what the hell? Yeah. That's crazy. Okay, sorry.
It was pretty crazy.
So have you seen it?
Last night I went back to see the press screening here in Charlotte just to see that scene.
Oh, okay. I actually didn't know you physically saw it. I thought, but didn't someone tell you what it was before you saw it?
Some people told me, but they were a little bit off. So seeing it for myself was kind of the cherry on top. Yeah,
cool.
It was pretty great.
Okay, sorry, I missed that. Okay.
So with Autumn Movie Blend, I was thinking I wanted something that the entire story was set during autumn. Like there's a lot of movies that have like autumn scenes, but then it spreads out over the course of like it gets into Christmas and it gets into spring, things like that. And the two elements that dictate fall to me are a return to school, back to school. Like it always feels like back to school, and that's because I'm married to a teacher and I have two kids. And so for us, coming out of summer and getting into August, September is always going to be back to school. So I was looking at that and I wanted, like everything was saying like Dead Poet Society, but this is where I think I've said this on the show before. I've never seen Dead Poet Society, and I feel like it's one I need to catch up on. Yeah.
Oh, wait, I didn't know you
Have I never said that? Have I never said that? Yeah.
No, I think you said it once before on show.
I think I might have. I haven't seen it.
Sean, you should see that movie. Like
I understand that.
I'm not trying to be that guy who's like, wait a second, you haven't seen that movie? I mean, I haven't seen some classics too.
Oh, I know.
It's
a blind spot for me, for sure.
Brilliant.
But I went with another Robin Williams one, which is Good Will Hunting.
Oh, that's great.
And it's Boston in the fall. It's a little bit of a return to school because everyone's coming back to Harvard. And specifically, the scene that pushed me over the edge today in choosing it, because I went back and rewatched a bunch of clips, and Good Will Hunting is one of those films that, while it's brilliant from start to finish, it's a great YouTube movie in that you can pull up scenes and they work individually.
That's a good way to say that.
Isn't that weird?
You're right.
Yeah, you know what? Another
really
really good YouTube movie is Avengers Endgame.
Oh, all right, that's
it is.
You know what? By the way,
it's not wrong.
Just a little idea here. We should do like a YouTube blend
movie?
game.
It's not
that's
YouTube movie
interesting.
blend game. Like
I'm
a
sure,
movie like that.
I'm sure all the filmmakers we've had will really appreciate us.
No, but I understand
No,
it.
I think it's a compliment to
Classic.
randomly
I
in the
have my
middle of your
answer.
day want to pull up.
I actually have my answer. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but the scene in question was, and this is why it was so autumn. It's Robin Williams talking about meeting his wife for the very first time, where she comes into the bar the night that he had tickets to go see the Red Sox in the World Series. So again, the World Series, very fall, fall classic, all this jazz. And it was the one where Pudge hits the home run in extra innings, 12th inning, and how the everyone in the Boston in Fenway were like willing the ball over the thing, and Will Hunting's getting so excited, and he's getting into the story, and then he says to Robin Williams, "I can't believe that you were at that game," and he goes, "No, I wasn't at that game. I was sitting in the bar having a drink with the woman I was eventually going to marry." And he's like, "Well, you didn't go to the World Series game for that bar?" And he says, "No, I knew in the minute I saw this woman that like I was not going to go." And he goes, "What kind of friends do you have that they let you stay and not go to the World Series?" And he said, "I simply just slid my ticket across the bar and said, I have to go see about a girl," and it's one of those amazing examples, and it blows my mind that
stole my line.
That Affleck and Damon could have the maturity to write, because the best parts of Good Will Hunting are when Robin Williams is speaking from the perspective of having so much life experience.
Yeah.
And he's saying to this kid, it's not your fault, but you just haven't lived life, kind of thing, And so to him, to a kid that age, of course he'd want to be at the baseball game. Like he couldn't process not seeing a baseball game. And Robin Williams is like, because you've never been in the situation where you've seen this girl come in and just completely knock you on your ass, and you're going to say like, I don't care what else is going on tonight, but I'm going to sit there and watch this. So all of the great Good Will Hunting stuff that gets wrapped together, it was that World Series scene where I was like, God damn, this movie is amazing. The screenplay is incredible. What is the rumor that those two didn't fully write it? Isn't there?
There was always that rumor. That's in the same way that there's like the rumor that Marissa Tomei didn't actually win the Oscar. Like that, there's always going to be those kind of rumors.
Oh, really? They say that her name wasn't written on the envelope?
For my cousin,
that Jack Palance got it wrong.
That's pretty funny.
I've actually never heard that before.
That was a rumor for a long time. Now we know that to not be the case because we've seen what happens when someone reads the wrong.
And haven't they always given the person their envelope?
They always give the envelope. Yeah, it's just an old urban legend.
Yeah,
gotcha. Did you hear the story about Robin Williams getting Matt Damon the Private Ryan?
Yeah, I love that story.
That was a really cool story.
What's that story?
While they were shooting in Boston, Spielberg was in Boston shooting Amistad at the same time that they were shooting Good Will Hunting. And Matt Damon had sent a tape in to Spielberg for Private Ryan. But he was shooting, he had dropped a ton of weight for Courage Under Fire, the Meg Ryan, Denzel Washington movie. So when Spielberg saw his audition tape and how gaunt he was like, no, this isn't the kid, essentially. And then Robin Williams brought him around to the Amistad set, brought him and Affleck around. He's like, hey, do you want to go meet Steven, kind of thing? And they were like, of course, why wouldn't you meet Steven? And then when Matt Damon met Steven Spielberg, he's like, oh, I sent you a tape for Private Ryan. And Spielberg's like, oh, you're the kid. Like, he goes, you look so much more filled in now. And he's like, yeah, that's what I'm like, but I had to drop all this weight for the thing. And then Spielberg goes, oh, well, now you look exactly like what I'm thinking of. And then cast him as Private Ryan. like in the moment. Just because Robin Williams brought him by the set of Amistad, which is insane. Hollywood's
You
crazy.
shouldn't be allowed to tell that story without having seen Hook.
Yeah, it's probably fair.
I haven't seen
is
Hook either.
awesome.
Which one
Hook
should I
is
see first? Hook or
Dead Poet Society.
Dead Poet Society.
Then watch
You
Hook.
just watch them both. It's a great double
Yeah,
feature.
but dude, yeah, actually, it might actually
The
is
great
a
Robin
good
Williams
double
double
feature. Yeah.
Interesting. All right.
I was telling someone the other
On my
day.
list.
I know we've talked about Robin Williams in the show before, but in all of my years as interviews, and I know Jake would probably agree, he was such a special person. Like he was exactly who you wanted him to be. He was on all the time, and a lot of comedians aren't. And I truly think like he should have won an Oscar for Mrs. Doubtfire. He should have won an Oscar for like just one of the greatest actors of all time. And like,
Do you think? I think
brilliant.
his two best performances come down to either Good Will Hunting or Doubtfire.
I think
that's
Doubtfire
true?
is his best performance. I really do, and I'll tell you why.
Birdcage is great though too.
Birdcage is good too,
Birdcage.
but I think Mrs. Doubtfire. So Mrs. Doubtfire, unfortunately, falls into the comedy category, even though it's a really heavy drama about divorce and separation and kids and everything. But Mrs. Doubtfire, it's kind of like played.
It's slapsticky,
right? But that film, the undercurrent of that movie, it is so deeply moving and brilliant. Like the way you actually believe that Robin Williams would do anything for those kids.
You know, we're on a crazy tangent. You're talking about like the comedy of it being sort of lowers it, quote unquote, in like typically in the eyes of like
in the Oscars. Yeah.
But I would say similarly, his voice as the genie is fantastic too.
Oh my God! Yeah,
like
deserved an Oscar.
Yeah.
Deserved an Oscar nomination.
yeah.
And I completely agree with you. And again, it's it's funny you mentioned that because that goes back to the Andy Serkis thing I mentioned earlier. Like Andy Serkis is under this technology, so people don't know like how it's working, and he's delivering this masterful performance as Caesar in Planet of the Apes. But then you have Robin Williams, who you don't see on screen, delivering a masterful performance as well. So just absolutely incredible.
Kev, what's your autumn blend pick?
So my autumn blend pick is going to. I'm just going to show it because the cover is really all I need to say about it.
Oh yeah, that's perfect. Yes.
So
Perfect.
When Harry Met Sally,
Yep.
the poster alone is autumn to me. So
Yes.
Lauren and I are very big fall people. We have a very specific thing we do in our house with certain candles. We watch certain films during the autumn, obviously Halloween and films like that. But when Harry Met Sally is like my ultimate. It's just, I just love that film. I love the way it makes me feel. I love watching it in the fall. And you guys know the Billy Crystal story, I think, about our marriage, and he predicted our marriage, so which was really, really cool. So, but yeah, so when Harry Met Sally, that's going to be my ultimate number one autumn pick for sure.
That's great. Audience picks. Randy Buss said Ghostbusters. I think that's a pretty good pick, actually. The original Ghostbusters. That's an autumn film. Paul Marsh said The Craft. Rachel Ho went with When Harry Met Sally. Chipper Beale said Paranorman. That's a pretty good pick. Hold on, I think there's some more.
Paranorman. Craft is a good pick, by the way.
I thought you were going to do Nightmare Before Christmas, Kev.
So Nightmare Before
Christmas
I
movie.
to me it's a Halloween film, but it's interesting. Nightmare Before Christmas is specifically a Halloween film for me. Like autumn is almost different for me. Like it's like this is autumn, like for me, and I think Nightmare is more like Halloween. I know they're both autumn. It just feels different. That's all.
Oh, Megs said Monster House, which is a terrific animated film.
Great
Gil
movie.
Kenan.
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Gil Kenan, who wrote and directed Monster House, also wrote Ghostbusters Afterlife, for people who want to get excited about Ghostbusters Afterlife. Danny Gertch says You've Got Mail was the first thing that came to mind. And then Rachel also added a Ghost Story. Kev, you just saw Ghost Story. Is that an autumn film?
Oh, let me tell you right now. That film destroyed me. Wait, who on here has seen it?
I have.
I saw it when it came out.
I have.
Gabe, you have not.
I didn't
right?
care for it. I didn't care for it.
Gabe, it's 90 minutes.
I know. I'll watch it.
No.
And
I need you to watch it.
35 of them are Rooney Mara sitting on the floor eating a pie.
Don't listen to this.
What do you mean? That sounds amazing.
It is. That's like the best part.
The best way I can describe a ghost story is if you took the Matthew McConaughey scene in Interstellar where he watches the footage of his kids growing up and you made an 1.5 hour long film of that scene.
Yep.
That's what Ghost Story is like to me.
It's pretty accurate.
That's how brutal and interesting and emotional.
Is McConaughey in the walls like throughout the whole thing? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. He's like he's the dust in the house, and he's like Morse coding.
Books keep falling off.
Yeah. He's to the pie. He's like putting Morse code. Yeah. Murph.
All right, for next week, you can reach out on Twitter and play in our interactive blend game. We are playing hashtag James Bond Blend, the entire James Bond series. You will tell us your favorite James Bond film, not just the Craig era, because we might do the Craig era for something different where we like to play a special game. The entire James Bond series. So let us know your pick via social media using hashtag James Bond Blend, or you can go to ReelBlend@cinemablend.com, which is where you can also leave us a review. And this week's review comes from Thomas9133. Very short, very sweet, to the point. Says, big fan of BDK on the Sports Junkies. Always looking forward to his segment on Fridays. So there you go. Kev, bring us some listeners over from the Sports Junkies. Shout out to those guys, too, for having an amazing show.
Yeah, so for anybody who doesn't live in the DC area, that's how I got my start. The Junkies was a radio show. I was interning at a radio station filing paperwork, and I walked by the show one day, and I said to the host, hey, would you want a movie reviewer on your show? They brought me on to make fun of my OCD, my obsessive compulsive disorder, but I had seen a film that I could review, which was Just Friends, because there was a word of mouth screening at my college. So I actually had a movie to review. So I do this segment. They make fun of me for my OCD in a loving way. It's just fun.
Do they still? Is that still their bit?
I've been on the show since 2005. Yeah. So it's like I was like the shtick, like the bit kid, but I parlayed it into like, hey, I have an outlet. Get me on a press list. So I go on the show that day and I review Just Friends, and then they make fun of my OCD, and then they go, okay, callers call in. We'll take 9 calls. You tell us if we should keep this kid as our movie reviewer or not. 5-4, and it was in my favor.
Wow.
That's literally the entire reason I'm probably sitting here right now with you guys, because
That's amazing.
I can't. I mean, and I want to give. I know this is tangent. This has been a tangent episode, but I got to give a shout out to a friend of mine. So I wasn't on any press lists, so I was like, "Hey guys, I want to be your movie reviewer." But I was like, "How can I see new movies before they come out if I don't have access to it?" My buddy Dan worked at a movie theater. This is back when film projectors were still in use. So if you guys know this, film projectionists would have to stay
Thursday
like
night.
Thursday night till like 4 a.m. and watch every print to make sure it was okay for the next day.
Yep.
So I would drive out to Woodbridge from like wherever I was in Fairfax on Thursdays, and I would watch all 2 or 3 films that came out that week.
Yep.
I would get out at like 5 a.m. and call into the show at 6 or 7 and review them. That's what I did.
I love that story, but I just think like there would be so many studios that would be furious if they knew.
Well,
yeah.
This is 2005.
Sure.
And
before he could tweet anything out, kind of.
Yeah,
thing.
there was so basically, but that's how it was. That's how I had to get my. That's how I had to get going. And so the review, I want to say thank you, because that's the show that gave me my start. And I've mentioned our show on their show, and I try to do it as frequently as possible in terms of like big guests that we get. So it's cool that people are coming over.
That's awesome,
because they have a really loyal audience, and they survived the Howard Stern leave. Like there was Howard Stern, when Howard Stern left mornings, like morning radio was like, it was nowhere, and the Junkies moved to morning radio and survived. I mean, Sean, you know radio pretty well. Remember David Lee Roth ended up getting a show at one point?
Oh, God,
and
yes.
like Opie and Anthony and all those shows.
Looking for Howard replacements.
Yeah, the junks are still going. And so that's cool.
Oh,
so anyways,
while we're on that tangent, because that's a good tangent, PJ turned me on to a really great sports podcast called Pardon My Take. It's two guys from Barstool Sports. God damn, they're really funny. They're really funny. And then also one thing I watched last night, I'm an old head, obviously, and so I love Pardon the Interruption, the two guys from the Washington Post. There's an hour-long documentary on ESPN Films about the making of Pardon the Interruption and how far back it goes.
Is it a 30 for 30?
I don't know if it's a 30 for 30. I think it just said like ESPN Films Presents, and it was like the origin of that story. And I watched it last night, and it was
awesome.
Terrific.
They do great work over there, man.
Oh, I loved it. So good. Okay, anyway, back to movies. Drop us a review of the show. Drop it on Apple Podcasts, because that helps us. And then more importantly, as Gabe would like me to remind you guys, tell a friend about the show. Keep the conversations going on social media. That's how people find out about us. We've been able to generate some real interest around the interviews that we've been posting. Hopefully Andy Serkis will continue to keep that buzz going. And we have a few very exciting if it happens is in the hopper. In the hopper, as we call it. So
hopper.
The next
Chief
premium episode is going to be a 2-film challenge where we pick a person and then tell you the 2 projects that best represent them. If you were going to essentially say like the aliens landed and said, tell us everything we need to know about Léa Seydoux, and we would pick 2 James Bond movies probably. Actually, no.
No, you'd have to pick...
Blue is the warmest color.
Blue is the warmest color? Yeah, you have to pick that one, So anyway, you can access the premium episodes by going to cinemablend.com/ReelBlend Premium, and we have plenty of details there. Someone direct messaged me the other day and asked me, like, how do I get the premium episodes? I told them, and then they
check the link in the description.
I'm going to be completely honest. I don't know.
You get them, though, don't you? Didn't we automatically, like, hook you up for it?
I mean, I sent you guys links, but you have to click the links.
Oh, they don't do that.
Look, that's asking a lot.
They don't do that. I know from experience that they don't do that all the time. I've tried to send them a few things as well, too. Follow us on social media, at Jake's Takes, at Kevin McCarthy TV, at Sean_O'Connell, at Gabe Kovac, and the show is at ReelBlend. We'll be back next week with some more exciting guests and plenty of topics to speak of. And until then... Oh, God.
Minority Report.
The Adventures of Tintin. Lost World.
Warhorse.